Twilights New Moon by Zoe Horse. Chapter 3. Electrifying. Knock, 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 knock. The house that was Twilight's hazy brain was smashed down by a sledgehammer of hoof-on-door action. Her brain, still being soup, she sat up in bed, hoof on forehead. She had crawled into bed to try and process the previous night, but had immediately fallen asleep. Her dreams were a haze of confusion too, a mix of burning passion and scared confusion, much like last night. She groggily looked over at the clock on her wall. It was 3 p.m. She let out another groan and lay back down to wallow in her queerness. Why couldn't she just like cults? Everything would be far more simple. Knock, 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 knock. Twilight, darling, if you don't answer the door, I'm coming in. Rarity. Oh, God. Twilight sprang out of bed and ran down the stairs. She had completely forgotten she was meant to meet Rarity in the morning. In her defense, she had been preoccupied. Every single thought she had was underlined by the feeling of her kiss with Trixie. It was hard to think of anything else. She could only imagine what Rarity would think if she skidded to a halt halfway down the stairs, which almost made her fall down said stairs. It was Rarity at the door. Rarity could smell love trouble 4 miles away. Twilight glanced over at the mirror. She looked a wreck. Her eyes were bloodshot. Her mane was a frizzy mess. What in Celestia's name was she going to do? Twilight, I can hear you in there, you know. Twilight started to panic. She could read her thoughts. It took her far too long to realize she meant her hoof steps going down the stairs. Yes, just coming, she replied, and hastily levitated 4 different combs and brushes, all wildly tugging at her mane. They finished doing their quick sweep just as Twilight opened the door. As well put together as ever, Rarity started with a big smile. Twilight, my dear, you've had us all so worried, she said, but trailed off as she saw the 4 combs stuck in Twi's mane. Why? Why is that? I'm fine, Twilight reassured quickly, eyes darting back and forth. Rarity's raised eyebrow was all she needed to know that she didn't buy it. The first sign of worry was when you didn't come to pick up Spike in the morning. He's now been dragged off on some sort of dragon adventure. I wasn't really paying attention much anyway. I assumed you had just slept in a little. It was a rather late night last night, but then you didn't show up at all, she said, her eyes piercing through the mess of a horse. It was almost like she was some sort of Sherlock Holmes detective, reading every thought and intent that was flowing through Twilight's mind. Twilight was nodding along mindlessly to her talking, trying her best to look like she was concentrating, but there was another unicorn she was thinking about. Did you have a busy night? How did she do that? No, I just slept really well, really so well. I only woke up now. Anyway, must dash, bye. She tried to shut the door, but Rarity stopped it with her magic. If that is so, Twilight, then why do you look like you were pulled through a hedge backwards, then forwards, then backwards again? Twilight glared at her. Just because you're the element of honesty doesn't mean... She stopped herself, but before she could even fully grasp it, Rarity had leapt on in. Darling, that's Applejack. You really haven't gotten enough sleep. Come on, let's make you some tea. Twilight knew there was no way out of this, and gave up. She defeatedly went to sit down at the small tree-stumped table she had, as Rarity perkily trotted over to the tea station and started brewing. This gave Twilight time to make up a lie about what had happened. Something about bears. So, Rarity came over, sliding over the teacup to Twilight, who tentatively slipped. Are you going to tell me why you didn't sleep last night? Bears, she replied immediately. I beg your pardon? That sounded a lot better in her head. There were bears in my house. And why didn't you call Fluttershy to help? She was busy. Twilight, Fluttershy would miss her own funeral for the opportunity to see a bear. Twilight went to refute the claim, but instead just stared at Rarity. That definitely wasn't a saying. And you were with some pony, weren't you? Some pony blue? How? I mean, no. What? No. Who? No. Twilight, there's blue fur around your muzzle. Twilight's eyes widened, and she quickly grabbed the hand mirror that Rarity had produced, seemingly out of thin air. Trixie's fur did indeed remain on her face. Twilight saw 3 routes to take. Acceptance and tell Rarity, Denial and lie to Rarity. Kill Rarity. Murder didn't seem very friendship, and telling Rarity would kill her on the inside, which in a way would also be murder. So all she could do was take the non-murder path. Please, just don't, started Twilight, but Rarity cut her off again. I don't get why it's such a big deal, darling. It's nothing to be ashamed of. I find it rather nice, actually. How long have you and Rainbow Dash been having this secret hookup? Smiling sweetly. For the last time Twilight finally registered what she had said. Rainbow Dash? She thought she had been spending a night with Rainbow Dash? Rainbow Dash was very pretty, but her jockish tendencies didn't bode well for her on attraction level. Except when she was geeking out on Daring Do, then she... Okay, Twilight, not the time! She let out a big sigh. Fine, yes, me and Rainbow Dash, she said, nodding quickly. You got me and Rainbow Dash, here last night. See, was that so difficult, she said, smugly sipping on her victory tea. Don't worry, Twilight, your secret is safe with me. Twilight's whole body relaxed. She was out of the woods. My, I must be sure to tease Dashy about it. Twilight hadn't realized that the exit to the woods was just a clearing. There was more woods. So much more woods. Oh, please don't. She's even more awkward about this than me, she quickly added. She said she couldn't let anybody know that she was seeing a bookworm. Oh, come now, Twilight. I'm not going to announce it to the whole town now, am I? Twilight didn't even have time to object, as Rarity daintily steamrolled on. You have nothing to be worried about. It'll only be when there's no other company. Twilight tried to formulate a response, but the 400 tricksy-shaped things that were already swimming around in her brain meant that she just had to submit. Fine, but just please keep it to just her, she insisted. Rarity rolled her eyes. Cross my heart and hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my eye, she said, doing the appropriate actions. Thank you. Now, please can you leave? I need to fix myself up. Of course, darling. Don't you worry about a thing. Where did you say Spike was? A Dragon Quest. Okay, any clue when he'll be back? I didn't dare ask. I was worried he would ask to take my hand in marriage or something. Okay, thanks. She showed her to the door. Twilight, you know you don't have to hide things from me, right, gal? She said supportively. I know, and you know I'm not good at this kind of thing. Of course. Well, if anything else comes up, please do let me know, she said. I will, she said, getting ready to shut the door. There we go, darling. Oh, one more thing. That dreadful Trixie wanted to speak to you. It felt like somebody had just kicked her in the stomach. The fuzzy Trixie haze she was floating in had suddenly become a whirlpool, sucking her down beneath the surface. Sorry, she had to take a moment. Trixie spoke to you? Yes, she stumbled in a right state, wailing about wanting to make it up to the town somehow. I told her that it would be difficult, but apologizing to you would be a good start. She also mentioned that she saw you with the Rainbow Dash, which did assist me in my hypothesis, she said, nonchalantly inspecting her hoof. Huffness, Trixie, what have you done? And more to the point, Rarity, what have you done? Where did you send her? Sugar Cube Corner. I thought Pinkie would be the most exquisite help in making apology-baked goods in all of Equestria. Twilight slid down the door, head in hooves. Trixie was the least subtle pony in the entire world. What on earth was she going to be making down at Sugar Cube Corner? Everyone was going to know. No, Twilight, she thought to herself. It'll be okay. Nobody would ever think that we'd, you know. Besides, if she does tell Pinkie, I can trust her not to tell anyone. She would never get too excited and announce it to the whole town or anything. She froze. The mental image of Trixie casually telling Pinkie about their night filled her mind's eye. Twilight could feel the Trixie fuzz start to boil into stressed outrage. I'm going to kill that horse. Twilight had gone into Sugar Cube Corner thousands of times, but this was the first time that crossing the threshold of the brightly colored pink building felt intimidating. Despite her hair and tail being in presentable condition, she never felt more self-conscious in her life. It'll be fine. You're just going to go in there and calmly tell Trixie that you need to talk to her. She took a big breath. You're going to be okay. she reassured herself and walked in, and immediately wished she hadn't, as she felt the freshly oiled floor on her hooves. She immediately slipped, and in an attempt to regain her footing, ended up falling forwards. She slipped and spun all the way to the countertop, her side crashing into the counter with a thunk. Her head was still spinning as the lights above were covered by a shadow of blue fur. "Twilight, Twilight, Twilight, must I always find you at my feet?" Trixie stood above her, a hoof aside each head. Sneering down at Twilight, the boiling Trixie fuzz started to rapidly move around in Twilight's brain as she started blushing again, unable to even form a sentence. She hadn't been expecting to have to see her again so soon. She had her wizard's hat and cape on. It took Twilight a moment to realize, but she could see her messy, uncombed hair underneath the hat. It looked just like it had when she had left. Trixie hadn't even gone to bed. And why did that make Twilight's cheeks burn even redder? Trixie could sense Twilight's unease, and teasingly licked her lips as she moved off, allowing her to stand back up. As Twilight scrambled back to her hooves, Pinkie was laughing her head off as per usual. "Twilight, you should have seen your face. Thanks for the idea, Trixie. You'll be a prime prankster in no time," beamed Pinkie Pie. This is Trixie's idea?" "Yeah. She said you two had a party last night, and now you're best of friends," she replied. Trixie continued looking at Twilight, a mischievous smirk still plastered on her face. Twilight's rage continued to build. She snorted air slowly out of her nose, glaring at Trixie, but the blush persisted. "I suppose you could say that," she said, trying her best to keep it together. She didn't want to shout at Pinkie. None of this was her fault. "Yes, I'd rather think you could," Trixie chimed in. The pair stared at each other, with Pinkie being completely oblivious to the multiple tensions that were currently occurring. "I love it when meanies turn around to be friends," she said, looking at Twilight with her usual whimsical smile. "Oh my, I forgot to turn the heating down. Your face is burning red. Be right back," she said, and bounced out of the room. "Thank you, Pinkie," she said, feeling herself start to shake. As she left, her gaze turned back to Trixie. The turmoil of emotions had turned itself into anger, and she moved towards her. "What the fuck are you doing?" she hissed, stopping right in front of her as she stomped on her hoof. Trixie didn't even flinch. "You told Rarity that me and Rainbow Dash are dating? Why would you do that? Do you know how much more complicated that's going to make everything?" "What do you mean, what am I doing? I know how awkward you are, so I thought I'd set Rarity off your trail. Besides, we're dating now. What's wrong with me getting to know your friends, Dating?" Twilight had enough. Her horn began to crackle with magical energy. "Trixie, listen to me. We are not dating. Do you understand?" she snarled. "I had one moment of weakness. I am not—" She was stopped dead in her tracks as Trixie placed a hoof on her shoulder and raised an eyebrow. "Not what, Twilight?" "Electrifying." Her expression shifted to one of shy obedience. Her eyes were wide as she stared at Trixie. The arrogance, the confidence, the utter audacity. Twilight immediately felt all anger dissipate immediately as the haze fogged her entire mind and body, taking over completely. Trixie gave a small nod. Twilight once again found her body, moving towards her, and once again they were locked into a kiss. Twilight's body relaxed again as all the tension released in one big wave. Trixie remained still, but her tail did quiver a little. After a couple of moments, Twilight's ear twitched as she heard Pinkie Pie bouncing down the stairs. Her logical brain took back over, and she immediately moved away, pushing Trixie a bit. Her face was a beetroot red as she quickly adjusted her mane. Trixie fixed her hat placement. Twilight shot a bewildered expression to Trixie. How did she do that? Twilight didn't understand. How could she just immediately transform all of her rage into adoring worship with just a touch? By Celestia, she was down bad for her. "There we go, the heating's off," she said, bouncing back to the counter. She looked a little confused. "Why are you two so close together?" "Oh," she said, before exclaiming in realization. Twilight's ears went back. No, Pinkie could not know. "Sorry, I didn't realize that you were both such aggressive staring contesters." Pinkie never failed to make any situation less stressful. The pair both nodded, giving small noises of, yep, yeah, that's it. Okay, mustache, bye," Twilight said hastily. and with one terrified parting look at Trixie, she staggered out onto the street, quickly retreating into the alleyway beside the shop. "Bye! See you later!" Pinkie Pie called out after her happily. Twilight was breathing heavily in and out, coughing and spluttering a bit as she regained her composure. The power that Trixie held over her was terrifying. She melted completely at her touch, like throwing a stick of butter into a volcano. Why? She racked her brain for an answer. Sure, there was the attraction she felt towards her on a normal level, but being completely debilitated? Maybe she was being sent back to how she felt, stuck there on the floor, facing her down. She pinched her eyes closed, tears of exhausted emotion seeping out. It was all so confusing. The worst bit of this whole mess was there was a small part of her that liked it when she said they were dating. And out of everything, that is what scared her the most. Her thoughts were interrupted by the gentle hoofsteps of some pony else. "Twilight?" It was Trixie, and she was looking around. Twilight hid behind one of the bins, but peeked her head out for a look. Trixie looked upset, concerned even. Her usual bombastic persona wasn't on show, just like when she had revealed her true intentions of being in the basement. It was, for once, not the great and powerful Trixie. It was just Trixie. Twilight felt a pain of sadness, the old heart wound reopening. She had made her feel like that. Trixie eventually turned to face her, and upon realizing she was there, she immediately went back to her great and powerful persona. Well, not immediately. Twilight barely registered it. But there was a single, solitary moment when Trixie looked genuinely relieved. "Ah, there you are! Why did you run off like that?" she inquired as she moved up towards her. Twilight moved out from behind the bin. She had mostly recovered, but there's still that layer of contempt. "Why do you think?" she said, glaring at her. "Did Pinkie Pie scare you off? She can ruin the mood sometimes, if you catch my drift," she said mischievously. Twilight wasn't going to engage with this. "What have you done with me?" she asked bluntly. "Twilight? What do you mean? I haven't done anything to you," she said, smiling as she leaned against the wall beside her. "This is all you." She moved her hoof to stroke her cheek, but she shuffled away. "You know what I mean. Whenever you touch me, I feel like I've been turned into one of Pinkie Pie's trifles," she said, avoiding eye contact. Trixie tilted her head. "Fruity?" Twilight burst out into a short, anxious laugh. Truly, she was remarkable. "No, you know what I mean. I just melt," she said, feeling her face burn up again. "Well, you see, Sparks, it's because you're just overwhelmed by my incredible majesty." That was true, and the frustration started to build again. She looked over. "I just don't get it. You're the worst. You do nothing but cause me and my friends trouble, but, it's like the more angry I am at you, the more attractive you are. I don't understand. This doesn't make any logical sense." As Twilight started to ramble, Trixie was staring. She had looked hurt at the start, very hurt. But upon hearing the last bit, she let out a little chuckle. Twilight's heart dropped once more as she turned back to see Trixie's face, which was morphed with a grin like a cat who had just worked out how to use a tin opener. "So what you're saying is, you like it when I'm mean to you?" Twilight started to get flustered. "I didn't say that." She did kind of say exactly that. "Oh, but you meant it, didn't you?" she teased. No, Twilight stood up. "Trixie!" Trixie put a hoof up to Twilight's lip. "Shh, it's okay, Twilight. There is nothing shameful about basking in my splendor." It was that electric touch that once more made Twilight stop dead. She was reduced to a mess, and even when Trixie moved her hoof away, she was still stun-locked, staring at her. She told her body to move, but she couldn't quite seem to peel her eyes away from the pony in front of her. Trixie let out a little chuckle, moving her head left and right, with Twilight's vision following. "I really do have you right where I want you, don't I?" Twilight felt a shiver run down her spine. On Celestia she was hot. "How?" was all she was able to get out before Trixie shushed her again. "Don't worry, Twilight. I'm not going to tell anyone about our little secret," she said, and moved closer to whisper in her ear. "Although I won't try to hide it either." Twilight felt like she might explode. She stared at Trixie in horror and longing. She was going to make her life hell. She needed to get out of this state and fast. She managed to get to her hooves, and she was going to try and do what had worked the previous 2 times. She moved forward to kiss her, but she was blocked by a hoof. No, thank you. Not right now. What? Twilight backed away. But you have to earn it. How? She stuttered. You'll find out soon enough. What does that? It's a surprise. Speaking of which, head back inside and grab the box on the windowsill. It's for you from me. Trixie disappeared, leaving a still buzzing Twilight just sitting there on her own. It took a few minutes for Twilight to comprehend what had just happened to her. Trixie had her right under her hoof, and she didn't know if she liked it. Well, to be precise, she wasn't sure if she disliked it, and it was scaring her. Standing up on wobbly legs, she reached the windowsill and got the box that Trixie had promised. She carefully took the ribbon off. Inside were 9 perfect mint chocolate chip cupcakes with lime green frosting. Her eyes widened. It was her favorite flavor and her favorite style. How did she know it was her favorite flavor? She specifically hadn't told anybody about her preference since she wanted to keep the taste as a special treat. This didn't make any sense. There's no possible way she could have known that. This random act of true thoughtfulness, the haze in her brain was worse than ever. She needed to de-stress. She needed to calm down. Re-regulating her breathing, Twilight started making her way towards the treehouse cottage on the edge of town. If there's any pony who could calm her down out of this mess, it was Fluttershy.
Hello, it's me, Bunny. Again, I'm playing Casina, aka Red Hoodie 21's GoFundMe. He's raising money to get him and his cat Oscar out of an abusive home. More info can be found in the GoFundMe link below. If you do donate, you can take a screenshot of the donation receipt and email it to me at bunnyblastYGO@gmail.com. Then I'll send you the current fics I'm narrating up to 4 weeks in advance as soon as I finish them. Beyond that, this Friday, we're finishing up Making Up for Lost Time, and next Tuesday, Fluttershy and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day. Toodles.